Let's bring in Acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf. And just a quick note, I can hear the control room. If you could maybe mute my mic there. Secretary Wolf, thank you so much for joining us today. There's a lot that has to happen in order to get all of this protective gear all across the country to all of these hospitals. And still these hospitals are saying like they don't have enough. Can you tell me where you think you are in terms of trying to meet that demand?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me on this afternoon. So FEMA, along with DOD personnel, are really energizing the supply chain. And we've talked about an air bridge, and those are flights from Asia, working with those medical manufacturers, making sure that those supplies get to the U.S. in a matter of hours versus 30 to 37 days where they would normally come on a maritime cargo ship. So we're trying to energize the existing supply chain. We're routing PPE equipment to hotspots around the country at the county level, which is very important, and we're energizing that supply chain so that other medical distributors can continue to flow that information to those hospitals, to those nursing homes, and other areas that they normally send their PPE and those supplies to. So we're trying to confront this a number of different ways, and right now it's working. We're flying in. I think we've had 19 flights from Asia. We have another 52 planned. So again, we're really trying to push as much PPE into the system as possible.
I was thinking about the role that FEMA has played in trying to help people in all sorts of different things, including when I was there at the White House, there was obviously several of them, natural disasters mainly, but those are often localized events, right? So maybe FEMA helps in like a 4-state area. This is a national crisis, and I wonder what you have found the pressure points are on FEMA and maybe what else you might need from Congress in order to help try to get that done.
Well, Dana, I think you're exactly right. FEMA is used to responding to both natural and man-made disasters, but as you indicated, they're usually very localized. So you have a number of states that they're working with. Here we have all 50 states, all territories that are at a Category 5 or a Category 4 hurricane in most instances, in the type of level and support that they need. And so it really is an unprecedented situation that FEMA is confronting. When we talk about supplies, or the supply chain, that is a private sector industry. And so FEMA, again, working through DOD and some of the assets that they bring have really gone above and beyond, really trying to get a handle and an insight of how that information flows in that private supply chain network so that they can track those materials to those hotspots and redirect them. And of course, as you mentioned, we continue to get support from Congress. The funding that they provided, not only FEMA, but other elements of the department and the U.S. government, such as HHS, is helping in this fight. We'll continue to evaluate the resources that we need, but we are putting to use the resources that they've given us thus far, and we'll continue to push testing, supplies, PPE to those hotspots areas, and continue to look at those other areas, as you mentioned at the top of your show, Detroit, Michigan, Louisiana, other areas that we want to address before they become a hotspot.
Yep. I wonder, like, when you woke up this morning, on your to-do list, or like the thing that you're most worried about, what was that?
Well, from a Department of Homeland Security perspective, we need to make sure that our eye is on the ball regarding COVID and responding to this. I'm always also very concerned making sure that we continue to do our traditional counterterrorism mission at the department. Our adversaries, whether it's from a cyber perspective or just the nation-state perspective, are still hard at work. And so I want to make sure that our capabilities are not degraded, or we're not missing the larger picture as we respond to COVID. We have a number of entities within the department responding: FEMA, Coast Guard, CBP. A lot of folks doing a lot of good work, but we also need to make sure that we continue to make sure that our adversaries aren't trying to test us
and
as well.
Protect us. Maybe one last thing. You're also trying to alert people that there are attempts to defraud people that are out there. What would you like to say to Americans that are tuning in today about what they should be aware of online in particular?
Yeah, I think what we've seen, unfortunately, is any crisis, there are bad actors out there that will try to take advantage of individuals. So from a CBP, our Customs and Border Protection perspective, imports and exports, we see fake or fraudulent protective equipment trying to come in and go out of the country. We're certainly identifying that and seizing that. From an ICE perspective, Homeland Security investigations, we're looking at investigating criminal networks who are also trying to prey on the American people, cyber crimes, internet scams, the gamut. We see bad people trying to take advantage of the American people here. And so I guess for your viewers out there, understand the Department of Homeland Security is on it. We're doing our job every day in conjunction with the Department of Justice to make sure that we identify, we investigate, and we disrupt these attempts to either defraud the American people or, in worst cases, provide equipment that is very dangerous.
Absolutely. All right, Secretary Chad Wolf, we appreciate it, and we'll let you go back to work. Thank you.